Hey guys, doing something a little different this week. Decided to make another batch of beer. So we've got the malt sitting in there, just heating up, loosening it up a little bit. This is what it is specifically. A light Pilsner. You can choose to read that if you want. Let me see if I can stop shaking here for a second. There you go. I got this same place I got all of my other beer, and this kit actually. You can ignore the writing. I put that on the very first time I did it. I've changed up the process just a little bit, but that writing, or the kit comes from I think it's the Soda Shop. It's in Scarborough on Kingston Road. I'll put the address and a link to their website in the description. But actually, you know what? Maybe I will look at these instructions here. Clean everything thoroughly. I've already done that. I'm going to rinse this out just one more time before I start everything. But I used some safe for brewing bleach. You can get it at the Soda Shop. The next step here, dissolve the malt and sugar in approximately 2 to 3 liters of boiling water. This is not what this is doing. I'm simply heating this up to loosen it up because it's really thick. What I'm going to do after this water is boiling, that's loose, I'm going to dump this water out, rinse it, open it, and then we're going to start dissolving our stuff. So I will be back when I'm ready to start that. The easiest way to tell if this is warm enough to pour is if it's hot on the top. It's not right now. It's warm, but it's not hot. And take and roll it. And if it rolls back to where it started, that means it's still pretty solid inside of there. It's still pretty thick. So you got to leave it for a few more minutes. As soon as you can roll it and it doesn't immediately return to where it started, you're good. Alright, I took and turned it up. The end here was starting to bulge out a little bit. So as you can see, I just took my can opener, popped a hole in it, and it should be okay to pour at this point. So since I don't have 3 hands, I can't actually show you this, but what I'm going to do is take this whole thing over to the sink. I will take the can out of it, put the can in the sink, pour out the water, refill this with warm water, and add the malt and the sugar to it. But I might actually be able to show you adding the stuff to it. So I'll be back in just a sec. Alright, we've got some new water boiling up here. We've got our malt. Now all I gotta do, I'm gonna leave it in there. I gotta open the can, which isn't gonna be possible with one hand, so I will put you down and pick you up again in a sec. Alright, there we go. Kind of looks like chili. See if I can get my hand on this. Alright. I don't know if I can carry it with one hand here. That really doesn't look appetizing, does it? It smells really good. Doesn't look good. I gotta wait for this to heat up a little bit. So I'll be back after that. Quite boiling, but we're pretty close. So it's good enough for me. Take our malt. And that's what heating it up did. It pours out real nice and smooth. Now, what I gotta do is actually put some hot water in this can and flush out the rest of the malt. Alright, I didn't quite get all of it out. You can see there's still some around the rim here. I've put some hot water in there just to loosen up what's left in the bottom, and I can add it. It's too much to add to this pot now, but when I pour this into there, I can add the rest of that malt at that time. We got our malt here. Give it a stir. You can see there's no solids on the bottom there. So, all that's left to do is add in, of course, if I can get this bag open. Okay, this is annoying. I'll be back. Alright, sugar's in. It looks like it's all mixed up fairly nice. Just leave that on to boil up a little bit, and then I'll pour it into this guy. I don't like to have the malt full on boiling when I pour it into my plastic jug over here. I'm always afraid that it will just like melt right through. So I usually bring it up to a nice simmer, maybe a steam, and of course if it'll focus. That's where I like to pour it. So we're going to do that right now. Hopefully you can see that okay. Oh, the camera. Okay. Alright. Alright. Just want to make sure I've got as much of this out of here as possible. And then we bring the can, add that. Just a little bit more in there. Alright, I'm down in the laundry room here, and this is going to be its home for the next few weeks at least. I don't know if you can see down in there, but we've dissolved the malt and sugar. Now we have to fill the fermenter to 4 inches from the top, roughly. Usually I fill it to that line, and that's because when you add the yeast, it's going to start bubbling, and the malt will actually fill that space. I've had it come through the airlock before. So, get our hose, run some water through it first to make sure it's clean enough. I'm running hot water. Alright, you can see there how much that malt foams up. So I think I filled it enough. Let me get my little stir paddle out here. Everything I'm using here has all been cleaned and sanitized. Let's put a little bit more in there. Alright, and that'll be enough. Now, what I was saying, I added hot water. Now, this is extremely warm right now. Before I add the yeast, I want this to cool down to about 20 degrees or so. So, let me get my thermometer. Here's my thermometer. You can ignore pretty much everything except for the 62. Yes, this isn't Celsius, because I'm in Canada. But it's a wireless thermometer. I got a probe in there, and that's the transmitter. So I can go pretty much anywhere. All I got to do is wait for this to get down to about, anywhere from 20 to 25 degrees. And then I'll pour the yeast in. I got a heat blanket that goes around it, and then it's good to go. I'll just monitor the temperature and make sure everything's okay. Unfortunately, I didn't get any video of me actually adding the yeast. It was just too late and I couldn't make a lot of noise. A very simple process. Once it had cooled down to about 35 degrees or so, I was a little bit high because it was late, and I just wanted to get it done. I couldn't wait any longer. But once it had cooled down, you just open the package, you sprinkle it around, closed up the lid, put the airlock on, put the blanket over it. I got a little heating pad over here, just to keep the temperature constant. I'll put the probe on it a little bit later today to see what actual temperature I have. But this has just got to sit here for like somewhere between 2 and 5 days, just until the airlock stops airlocking. Alright guys, this thing's been sitting here for about 4 days. Probably a day longer than it should have, but as you can see, all the action has stopped, and so all I got to do is unwrap this and start filling bottles. So give me a second, I'll do that. Alright, so as you can see, I made a little note here. I started it on the 18th, and I got a hydrometer reading of 4.75. So, we're going to try another reading here. Normally I wouldn't put this right in here, but I don't know where my little file thing is. Give it a little spin. Make sure all those bubbles are off of it. Okay, can't actually see what number it's sitting at, but if I spin it around just a little bit to here, I can take a relative reading and then look at it. Alright, a little hard to tell where it sits at, but I think I have about 4% alcohol, which isn't a whole lot. Oh, maybe even a little bit higher than that, maybe like 4 1/4. But that's basically what I was expecting. This is supposed to be like a light sort of beer. Normally I don't drink this kind of stuff, but I figured I'd give it a shot. So, while I was pulling my bottles out, I found one that I hadn't drank last time. So, I'm gonna celebrate with that tonight. I'm gonna show you a few bottles. I won't show you all of them because I have that plus another one. But basically, this is what I do. You can do it several different ways, but basically, this is not going to work with one hand. Here, let me try this. That'll work. Okay, I get a, let's see if I can bring this out here, a spoon of sugar, which I've knocked off so it's just heaping a little bit. Put that down in there. Do the same for all of them. Make sure I can actually get this one on camera. And whoop. There's no depth perception through a camera. Who would have thunk it? Alright, and that's all the sugar I'll need. That can go up, sitting up there so it's not going to get dirty. And this is just standard granulated cane sugar. Nothing special. I did add dextrose sugar to this guy originally, but like I said, it's not going to make any difference. All this is doing is adding carbonation. So let's see if I can do this one-handed. Alright, and there's the first bottle. I usually just fill them up to somewhere between this lip here and this edge, and that seems to work okay. So I'm going to do the 3 more, and then we'll do the other 20, and then I'll probably do the other 24 that are sitting over there, and I'll be back. So I changed up my procedure for the second box. What I'm doing is putting a little bit of beer into each thing. You can see they're all there. And then adding the sugar instead of adding the sugar first, because I was finding it was sticking to the bottom. As you can see, there it is. But at least this gives it a little bit of suspension first. Alright, it's been 2 weeks. The bottles are just doing their thing over here. I have a couple in the fridge waiting to be drank. And as you can see, there's a little bit of sediment on the bottom. And that comes from the way I do my bottles. Because of the way I put the sugar and stuff in to the bottles, the alternative would be to put almost that entire package of sugar into a separate container, and then add the beer to that, let it carbonate, and then fill the bottles. And you wouldn't end up with that sediment. But because I'm carbonating inside the bottle, that sediment is basically just dead yeast. And that's what the sugar's for, because there's still a tiny bit of suspended yeast in that beer when I'm bottling it. So you put the sugar in, the yeast eats it, carbonates the bottle. Not harmful. I personally don't drink it. What I'll do is I'll pour it into a glass, and if you're gentle enough, you can pour it, and just as that yeast starts to flow out, you just stop and dump the rest. It's only usually about a teaspoon. So once those cool down a little bit, pop one open and see how it tastes. Right, there we go. Crack the first one of the year, and it's gonna overflow here a little bit. I gotta set this up so I can actually show you me pouring it. Let's see how well this works. That should be okay. I'm just going to take and tip this down. All I do is leave the... Can't even see that. All I do is leave the last little bit just because of that little bit of stuff in the bottom I was telling you about. And then, of course, dump it. Rinse the bottle. I'm going to rinse it, but I figured I'd show you guys what this looks like. Let's get a good picture of it in the light here. Where is it? There it is. It's pretty nice. Has a good taste to it. Something you'll notice if you do this, the carbonation, it just tastes a little different. And that's because I'm carbonating inside the bottles rather than adding CO2, carbon dioxide, which is what most beers you taste do. They just add carbon dioxide to a flat beer, and that causes the fizz. So you guys should go out and make yourself some. Have a good day.